Freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men in power want? More power.
My name is Luca Zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a drill. If you're listening to this broadcasting, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love. Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and all United States.fm network. I started already last week to have on the show, after all, it's election time, all people of different candidates who wants to run for office or they want to just be reelected. We started last week with this local gentleman from Lake Havasu. His name is Paul Mosley. And I think it's interesting what we're doing here because many people say, I don't really care about this. After all, I live in Scotland. I have listeners from Australia or even maybe from New York. Why should you care what's happening right now in Mojave County, Arizona, in LD5 in these elections? Because I tell you why. In my opinion, this is the most important role that we have as citizens, as constituents, to be involved, to be engaged in our politics. Because, politics is not an abstract concept. It's not just about politics. It's about your life. It's about your money. It's about today what you can eat or what you cannot eat. It's about the freedom that you're supposed to have to, raise your children. That's what it's about politics. So the topics that I will touch in this local politics interview, I think they are concepts that belong to any human beings. I don't care if you are American or maybe if you live in Europe. It's about freedom. It's about individual rights. It's about property rights. That's what it is about. So anyway, and that's the bottom line. And as I said, I'm here. I'm not endorsing anybody. I'm as independent. And I like to bring everybody here. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever you are. And I'll give you the same treatment, respect, but also the same questions that I would demand from somebody else if I was running for office, talking about public business. And of course, my topics here, it's about freedom. It's about, as I said, individual rights. So I will stick to my principles. That's my agenda. The United States Constitution, Bill of Rights, and of course also the Declaration of Independence. Now, I have a man here that, when I used to be in the Republican Party, today's guest, it's one of the few people in the Republican Party who I used to respect, because I tell you, I left the Republican Party. And you know why? Because probably there were not enough people like him. That's why. And don't get me wrong, you're in the party, you got to stick what you believe, and that's fine. I think you got to stay in the machine to try to fix it. At the same time, today, I found my new role as a little local radio guy, and I prefer to be independent, as I said, because I'm not here to push any party. I'm just here for the principles that I just told you before. My special guest I have with me today, I have the honor to have a former state senator for LD5, Arizona, Senator Ron Gould. Ron, are you there?
I'm doing pretty good, Luca. How are you?
Very good. Finally, as I said, you were one of the few people that I used to respect. I respect you still, but now as you're no more an elected person. And when I was in the Republican Party, I was very disappointed to see many people running as Republicans and then running around with their voting records that doesn't really make any difference from the other side. So I tell you, I want to give you a comment at least for that. Even I didn't agree on everything you did, but I tell you, I always respected you for your principles and to stick behind your principles, and you never really compromise. So I really like that of you.
Well, thanks, Luca. And you've noticed also that we have Republicans in office that their rhetoric doesn't match their voting reality.
Exactly. And that's why I tell you, that's why I was so disappointed that I couldn't take it anymore, And I tell you, after you left office, I don't know. I said, why am I still around here? But anyway, that's another story. The focus, it's about you, I want to, before I bring you in as a statesman, as a politician, as your, the values that you want to run, I would like to give you a little bit of few seconds to explain yourself. Who is Ron Gould as a human being, as an Arizonan, as an American? What do you do in your private life? Where are you located? What are you doing?
Sure. I'm an air conditioning contractor, and I've lived in Lake Havasu City for 20 years with my wife, Janice. Janice and I just celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
I have 3 adult children. I have 3 grandchildren. I'm a constitutionalist and a Republican/libertarian. little L libertarian. Or you could use like the term classic conservative. We support limited government, lower taxes, traditional family values, and strong national defense.
Okay, very good. Now, you serve for how many years? I think 3 terms, right? 6 years, correct?
Well, actually, I did 4 terms. Arizona, the legislature, both Senate and House, are 2-year terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I did 4 2-year terms as a state senator. I did 2 years as a city councilman.
Okay.
In Lake Havasu before that.
Okay.
I was the chairman for the Mojave County Republican Party for 4 years.
Okay. But you
and had been a precinct committeeman in Arizona since 2000, so
Perfect.
14, 15 years.
Perfect. And but your highest level of office that you ever reached was as a state senator. About when was the last time you were in office? How many years ago?
2012.
2012.
When I term limited. Arizona has 8-year term limits.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached my term limit and ran for Congress in the 4th Congressional District. And although I won Mojave County overwhelmingly, I lost the primary to Paul Gosar.
Yes, I remember that. Now, listen, today I'm very excited you're here because, I have always questions to tell you. And there are a lot of things that I said. I was proud of you when you were there. And I think if you believe in what we believe in, limited government and, keeping track of our money in a conservative way, I think you were one of the best down there. But now I would like to ask you before we go ahead.
I was actually number 1 on the Goldwater Institute, which is a conservative libertarian think tank. They had me rated number 1 in the state Senate for 7 of 8 years, and I missed being number 1 that 8th year by 1 point.
Yes.
Americans for Prosperity Arizona had me rated number 1 for 5 of 8 years. And I always did well on. There's a group called the Pachyderm Coalition. I did well in that. Did well in the pro-life scorecard also.
Yeah, I remember that. And by the way, these are public records. Everybody can go out there and check it out. So
sure.
we're not just
I would ask people that they do that because in reality, a lot of times you get these folks, and it's Arizona. It's a Republican state.
Mm-hmm.
Mojave County is a Republican county. So every Republican that you run into that's running for office will tell you they're a conservative.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you look at their voting records, it's generally less than conservative. You would be shocked.
Well, at least I got so mad many times. I really had a nervous breakdown, seriously. I mean, it made me mad. I have more respect for the other side. At least I know that they do not represent my values. I didn't vote for them. I didn't, support them, at least when I used to be in the Republican Party. I used to be also a precinct committeeman. And then you see these people, they completely turn card on you, and they completely vote the way that the other side is voting. And this is disgusting, I tell you. I have much more respect for a Democrat, at least he stick to his principles, and we are enemies politically, and I was not going to vote for him. So that's true. I really would like to have everybody out there who's running for Republican Party. Every voters really should look at the records, not at the type of T-shirt they wear or the type of flag they have or their pin on flag pin they have on the jacket. We need to stick really to facts. That's why we're here. Now, talking about facts.
Yeah, the shame.
Go ahead.
The shame is most voters make their decision when they're standing in front of the ballot, and they make that decision based on campaign literature.
Yeah. Also,
which is sometimes slanderous at best.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And also on friends. I hate this Republican Party as a, club friendsman / I'm famous too because my friend is famous, okay? I mean, that's what really I think destroyed at least part of these elections because people get voted in not for their values or for the principles or the voting records, just because, he's a friend of mine. After all, must be good. And, when it comes down to public business, I really believe we should keep friendship aside and stick to the principles of this res public, the public thing. That's what we're doing, public business. So I have a question for you. After all, you had a lot of good time. Good time. You had a lot of times you spent in office, at different levels. Why do you want to go back now to Phoenix again in the Senate? What motivated you?
Well, in reality, we have the same problems that we've always had.
Mm-hmm.
The government does too many things. It spends too much money, and it doesn't respect individual liberty.
Okay.
And there's really not anybody down there right now that is actually a mouthpiece for a limited government point of view.
Okay. Since you brought it up, and I don't like to talk back bad about other people, especially when not here, but these are not just other people. They are public elected officials, at least representatives. And I really believe it's our duty of citizens and constituents to talk about it, So it's not like try to bring them down, but I think we have an objective facts. Since you're running against, for example, another Republican in the primaries, this is still a state representative, Sonny Borrelli. What do you think, for example, your judgment, at least your opinion about his voting records? And by the way, he's running against you. Why you think you can do better than him?
Well, if you take a look at Mr. Borrelli's voting record, he, over the 3 years that he's been in the legislature, he scores in the bottom third of the Republican caucus. Not in the middle, not in the top where I was, in the bottom.
Wow.
And really, that's a low bar anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because you're looking at the whole Republican caucus. Mr. Borrelli talks like a rock rib conservative, but in reality, that's not how he votes.
Can we do a couple of examples? I'm sure you follow his voting records accurately. After all, you're running for the same position. A couple of practical and very, black and white examples in his voting records that say this guy, Representative Borrelli, he didn't vote according to the principles of limited government and individual rights. Tell us a couple of examples if you have.
Well, here's an example that really shocked a lot of people is Representative Borrelli sponsored a bill that would allow police officers' names to be shielded for 90 days if they're involved in a shooting.
Wow, interesting. This is
and police chiefs can already shield those names if they think that it's necessary, for the officer's safety. But the big problem is when you create two classes of people, it's problematic.
Exactly.
This is not a country of special rights.
No, I agree. This is very important.
We've seen countries like that operated under a two-class system, and it's problematic. It doesn't lead itself to liberty.
Now, that's one important point. I was going to bring him up to him. By the way, I officially invited Representative Sonny Borrelli on the show, and so far, no news, but he's welcome to come anytime. I invite everybody, and even if we disagree on issues, I always treat you with respect. Okay, that's the bottom line. Now, go ahead.
Another issue with Representative Borrelli is in 2013 we had the Obamacare issue where the Governor Brewer was trying to expand Medicaid. You're going to go from the poverty level of $18,000 all the way up to almost $50,000.
Wow!
Where you're going to receive free health care. That was really the big push. The expansion of socialized medicine in the country was the expansion of Medicaid. Representative Borrelli refused to take a position on that.
Interesting.
And essentially sat on the sideline. And was the feeling from some individuals that I've spoken to that he was going to vote for that had that vote not been a rolling of leadership.
Wow.
Because what happened is the governor orchestrated some rhino Republicans and the Democrats that were actually going to launch a political coup of the House and the Senate and install new leadership to push this through. Rather than fight the issue, Representative Borrelli sat on the sidelines. Myself and Senator Frank Antonari, who are both former senators, had to try to run a referendum against that vote of the legislature as private citizens. And we were actually ended up being unsuccessful in that just because it's the amount of signatures you had to gather was so large in such a short 90-day period of time that we couldn't do it without outside money, and no one was willing to go against the governor and the hospital association and the Arizona Chamber of Commerce to do that.
Oh yeah,
but that's not what I want for a representative. I want my guy to fight.
I agree. No, at least, by the way, guys, I'm not even a Republican anymore, and I tell you, it doesn't matter because I stick to the principles. I don't care if Gould was from the party from Mars, okay? I like the principles that we are sticking here, Unfortunately, we are trapped into this mantra, he's a Republican, he must be right, or he's a Democrat, must be right. No, let's look at facts, our principles, individual rights, property rights, freedom. And that's, for me, the bottom line. And as I said, I have many things that I agree with former Senator Gould. Some other issues I do not agree. And, I like to engage with him about conversation, hopefully, try to help each other in looking at facts. But at the same time, at least I like to have somebody that sticks to his principles. And unfortunately, I agree with you. Sonny Borelli, as much as I may like him to have a beer together, and he has a funny accent like mine. Just kidding, my accent is worst. But the point is, he's not a politician that I believe he can represent me in these principles. But I'm not even here as a Republican anymore. I'm just here as a constituent, anyway, more important, as a resident of LD5 in Arizona. And that's what I'm talking for. Now, question. What are your 3 best accomplishments, if you have 3 accomplishments that you would like to tell us, that you achieved when you were in the Senate? 3 things that you say, I'm so proud I was able to, thanks to my effort, to put them together.
A lot of the stuff that I worked on was not actually my bills. A lot of times I worked on other people's bills.
Okay.
And I don't really think that bill passing is really how we should score legislators.
Okay, but let's put it in this way.
Because when you think about it, every law that's passed takes away somebody's liberty.
Exactly.
So we need to be really careful about the laws that we pass.
I agree with you.
A lot of the bills that I passed either limited government or lowered your taxes or had an effect on illegal immigration.
Okay, no, I agree with you. And by the way, just a little input. Sometimes I go, maybe you have the same feeling. Would you like to have a law that for every new law, Congress or the state legislators must repeal 2 old laws? What do you think about that?
That would be a good start. That would be a really good start. Some of the bills that I worked on one I worked on was called employer sanctions, where if you were caught knowingly hiring illegal aliens in the state of Arizona, that we took your business license.
Wow, I remember that.
And how we set that up, it was a 2-strike method. Politically, the people on the left will push back and claim, well, if you take away somebody's business license the first time that they do something, you're going to capture people that inadvertently did that. So to get around that political objection, which is what you have to do a lot of times in politics, I came up with a 2-strike method.
Yes.
So we'll give you the first strike for free. Thinking that you might have made a mistake or whatnot, but the second time that you get caught hiring an illegal alien in Arizona knowingly, we take your business license.
Yes.
We also wanted them to e-verify those employees. If you e-verified the employee, then you had what's called a rebuttable presumption, which is a legal term meaning you covered your tail.
Yes.
That if that person came back good on e-verified and turned out later to be an illegal alien, we weren't going to hold you liable because you did your due diligence.
Yes, I would like, time is going to go fast, and there are so many things we can talk, and 1 hour wouldn't be enough. I want to go straight to the points, first of all, that I verify, and I would like to invite everybody else out there to verify on their own about the things that, according to our principles of, small government and, lower taxes and also individual rights, like, for example, the Second Amendment. After all, this show is called Love, Guns, and Freedom. We talk about guns in the second hour a lot. I really believe that Senator Gould, at least when he was a senator, he did a great job, okay, according to the voting records, nothing but that. So, illegal immigration, go check it out. Taxes, we already know about the special award from, the Goldwater Foundation. Go check it out. It was #1 for a long time. Another one is about the Second Amendment. Questions, talking about the Second Amendment, it was under you, at least when you were in office, that we passed the constitutional carry in Arizona?
Correct.
Exactly. So that was, as I said, even if you were not the only person there or promoting that bill, but, that's the type of things that we had during that time. And I think it was beautiful.
Sure. I had a bill that was called Campus Carry. And what that was, that I actually got that all the way to the governor, Brewer, where she vetoed it.
Yes.
Would actually have allowed students on Arizona colleges and universities that held a concealed carry permit to carry their concealed weapon on the college or university.
I remember that.
One of our Senate pages was actually shot and killed on ASU campus. He was robbed for his laptop computer.
Wow. I remember that.
But you see these school shootings, and they go on in school zones because schools are so-called gun-free zones, which in reality just means that the law-abiding citizen is not armed, but the criminals remain armed.
Okay.
I received the Legislator or Lifetime Achievement Award actually from the Arizona Citizens Defense League.
Yes.
Which is a Arizona gun rights group, and they're actually the group that pushes the envelope on gun rights.
Yeah, I remember because also
they're the ones. It's not the National Rifle Association that does this stuff in Arizona. It's the Arizona Citizens Defense League.
Yes.
I also held an A+ rating with the National Rifle Association for 8 years.
Yes.
There was only 6 of us that had A+ ratings.
Yes.
So, during that time, the concealed carry law went from a 16-hour course. My wife and I took it when it was a 16-hour course. There's really only about 4 hours of material.
Yes.
The rest of it, I like watching pumpkins get exploded by high-powered rifles as much as the next guy.
Yeah.
But I really don't think that you should have to watch 8 hours of that to get a concealed carry permit. So we reduced that to a 4-hour class.
Yes.
And then we went to constitutional carry also.
Yes.
Which says any law-abiding citizen 21 years of age can carry a concealed weapon in Arizona. Because that's your right.
Exactly.
And the states that don't allow you to do that, they've seized part of your rights. You have a natural right to defend yourself.
Exactly.
And you should have the tools available to you to do so.
Very good. Now, this is all I wanted to say, because I would like to focus on things that we can have, because I like to hear when you remind me all these things, and it was great. But now I like to engage you with things that maybe we have a little bit of difference of opinions, because I think that's probably the best part of, having a better relationship between constituents and elected officials, okay? Now, first of all, yes, let me remind to the listeners, if you want somebody that is very pure about illegal immigration, different from, immigration, I think Ron Gould or former Senator Gould, he was the man. If somebody about taxes, I already told you, go check it out. We had the best man in office at the time that he was at least trying to defend our pocket. Nothing to doubt about that. Second Amendment, he just said that. We're talking about constitutional carry, something that probably many other states, they would arrest you just to think stuff like that, okay? So now, let's go back to exactly what normally I try to bring into the show, things that we may have differences of opinion, especially when it comes down to individual rights. First of all, Ron Gould, what do you think is the role of government for you? If you had to condense in a phrase, why we have government?
To protect individual liberties and to administer justice.
Perfect. Okay, I agree with that completely. So we agree on the principles that, a free individual, somebody that has, is free, at least is not, no crimes, no felonies, has rights to do pretty much what he wants or she wants until infringes on other people's rights. So do we have that type of philosophical principle that we agree? We should be able to do things. We have rights until we do not infringe on other people's rights. What do you think?
State the question again. I didn't know that was the question.
Okay, let me make it simpler. Do we have rights until we infringe on other people's rights?
My rights end at your nose.
Yeah, there's a right. Okay.
I own my body, and I can do whatever I want with my body.
Until I don't.
And you can do whatever you want but when you try to infringe upon my rights, then we have a problem.
Yeah, let's say, for example, right now, I'm here, I'm in my office, and I'm having a glass of wine, okay? But I know very well the moment that I am intoxicated and I jump on that car, I'm a danger to others, and I shouldn't do that. That's illegal. That's wrong.
Right.
That's immoral, unethical, and on top unlawful. That's the bottom line. But right now in my house, I think it is my body. I should, of course, with freedom comes responsibility. So I shouldn't probably abuse myself. But if I want to do it, I'm stupid. If I have the money to pay for my hospital, for my liver transplant, that should be my right to drink as much as I want. Correct? Now, question is, we have a lot of talking about this legalization of course, of marijuana, okay? And I don't even smoke. I hate, by the way, the smell about it. But I've always been thinking about it, the principles that we apply here, After all, we have the right to own our body, okay? And so far, we know very well that a plant like marijuana, if we get caught with a plant without a permit or any type of special justification under the medical laws of marijuana, we can lose also our home. They can confiscate our property, and it's illegal. What do you think? What is your position about for a free individual to smoke or even just grow a plant in the freedom of their privacy and property? Would you support that type of right? Like, used to be before this type of, by the way, how do you want to call, there was under the alcohol was prohibition, but at least there was an amendment in the Constitution that they tried to pass, and they passed at the time. Now we have this type of prohibition but without even a Bill of Rights amendment. Would you support the legalization of marijuana?
I'm not really that worried about marijuana, to tell you the truth.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Because under the medical marijuana program in Arizona now, pretty much anybody that wants to get a medical marijuana card can get a medical marijuana card.
Okay.
So I have no problem with the medical use of marijuana. I'm not particularly concerned about marijuana. I think it's an individual issue for people. What I am concerned about is the loss of our rights under the drug war. Because we've given up. You look at the RICO laws where they seize your property.
Yeah.
Without a trial, as if the property created a crime. We've lost that right. You've lost some search and seizure rights also. If you're going to move towards drug legalization, we need to end the welfare state.
Yeah, I agree. That's another
currently,
point.
You can't even, the federals will not even let us drug test for welfare recipients.
No.
And most people would agree that if you're going to do drugs, you should not be on the public dole.
I agree with that.
If you've created a situation where you can't work.
I agree with that.
It's something that we need to move towards, and that's really my only objection. Is I don't think the taxpayer should be burdened.
I agree with
by
that.
Paying for support for drug users.
I agree. I mean, the point is with freedom comes responsibility. The moment that you make the choice, I shouldn't pay for your dope or whatever you want. I mean, I should even pay for your lack of energy to go to work or whatever's going to happen. At the same time, though, I really believe, though.
Those guys start a downward spiral. When they become addicted to drugs, and it's not necessarily marijuana. I think marijuana is a gateway drug. Because most people that move on to harder drugs started with marijuana. But when they move on to harder drugs, with marijuana, you have a lack of motivation for the most part. You go into the more addictive drugs, they pretty much they effectively lose the ability to reason.
Ron,
in their whole life, all they care about is getting their dope.
Ron, I don't smoke. Let me tell you something, okay? I don't really like any. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke anything. I have a lot of people that I know. I don't even consider them friends, but I know, and they're pretty well functioning, member of society. And instead, they make their choice to have a bottle of wine at dinner or a couple of glasses of beer or whatever normally people may enjoy. They like to have their dope or their smoke, their marijuana at night, okay? And they can completely function. I mean, that's the bottom line. But my point is, if you want to go the type of getaway drug, I'm not sure about that. All I know that alcohol itself is proven that creates millions of deaths during the year, thousands of millions of deaths. I don't have right now the front.
I would agree with you that alcohol causes more societal problems than marijuana.
And also that we're talking about.
It's because it's widespread use. But if marijuana was as used socially acceptable as alcohol, you would probably have the same problems with marijuana.
But that's exactly my point. At the end of the day, first of all, I don't think somebody should be punished for the collective misuse of something else, for like the gun rights. Let's say out there somebody is doing something wrong. I shouldn't be punished. You shouldn't be punished just because somebody's crazy, he starts to kill somebody. At the same time, let's say people cannot handle whatever they're smoking. I don't think other people should be punished and become felons. Right now, we have laws pretty much that if you get caught with a little bit of this plant, after all, it's a plant. I'm not even talking about synthetic drugs. You can become a felon and get ruined the rest of your life and go on probation and treated like a crime. I mean, like a violent criminal and go time to jail. I believe this is something kind of scary,
Arizona, first-time drug possession is not punishable by incarceration.
I know, but your life's changed a little bit, right? I mean, the first time, the second time.
I think we should move towards decriminalization of marijuana, and if you're going to go that way, you need to take it incrementally.
Yeah.
You and I, we can run our own lives. So if we decided to legalize all drugs tomorrow, you and I we're not going to be out on the corner looking for the heroin dealer.
No. And by the way,
because we run our lives, we run our lives the way that we see fit. Yeah. And the law is not what keeps us from harming ourselves. It's our own, our own mind keeps us from harming ourselves.
Ron, and also another thing, like, for example, we already have a lot of, let's say, laws that make these drugs illegals, okay? And still, they're gonna be people. They're gonna look for their drugs. They're gonna find them, and all they do, they support this criminal enterprise of drug dealers and, of course, the drug traffickers. That's all they're doing, because you can put all the laws you want out there. Drugs always gonna be drugs, and people that want to do drugs, they don't care how many laws you put out. That's the bottom line. All we're doing though with the laws, like during the prohibition, we're going to give the opportunity to the drug dealers to get like something that's supposed to be the market value of almost nothing, talking about a plant, and make it look and make it very expensive because of the demand and the risk involved into this trade. Like when it used to be during the prohibition, a bottle of wine, man, you can become rich if you got a bottle of wine. Okay, at least you deal in wine.
Yeah, I thought of an interesting analogy though. Is even though alcohol is legal, you still have people that moonshiners that bootleg alcohol.
Yes, exactly.
And that's because of the outrageous taxes that are on alcohol.
I agree.
When you it's a supply and demand thing. When you if something is so expensive that you can make a living by end running the tax man, people are going to do it.
Yeah.
So if they legalize drugs and decide that they're going to put heavy taxes on them like they do on alcohol, I think you're going to create a bootlegging situation also with the drugs.
I agree. If you start to put too much tax, I don't like to pay a tax on a plant.
A lot of times they use but we'll tax it as if that's supposed to make things okay. In reality, that may negate any positive benefit.
I agree. And honestly, I don't like even this, position of the Democrats on this legalization, because it's all about taxes, I mean, first of all, the principle that we have now government that can tax a plant. Next time it's going to be maybe my basil that I cook with, or sage. By the way, I'm sure Ron, if you sage, normally I cook and make meat with sage. You can smoke it. You can get very distorted, okay? I don't do that, of course, but I heard nightmare stories. So the point that they can start to tax a plant, it really scares the hell out of me, or make it illegal even worse, of course. So that's the principle. I don't want to focus too much on this. I want just to touch base with this, to have an idea what we're talking about, and make people think, After all, today it's a marijuana. Yesterday was alcohol. And tomorrow maybe it could be my basil. Where the government has the right or this type of power to make something illegal and make me criminal. That's the main question I have. Now, talking about...
And you've seen that stuff go on ever since they... the wheat farmer that was feeding his own livestock his wheat, and somehow he still had to follow the government's price controls.
Exactly.
Now, the problem is, the real root problem of our issues is we have too much darn government. We have more government than we can afford.
Exactly. Now, talking about from marijuana, we go to something different. And I would like to remind people that when I say hemp, industrial hemp, it is not marijuana. It is not something you can get high, okay? It's something that was completely used for industrial purposes, and we had it in America, and we import billions of dollars of industrial hemp from other countries, like, for example, Canada. What is your position about this industrial hemp? Why you think, first of all, would you like to make it legal in the state of Arizona, or we should just keep it illegal at federal level?
I don't have any problem with hemp. They had some legislation that I believe was from Borelli and Kelly Ward, but their inexperience in the legislature kept that from going anyplace. What they should have done is what they should do is create a study committee, a legislative study committee that taxes gives the assignment to the University of Arizona. To do some research on what is hemp a viable commercial product in reality.
Yeah,
because I think that hemp gets a lot of play, a lot of press, because it's related to marijuana. It's a similar plant. I would like to see some real numbers, unbiased numbers.
Yeah.
So what you would do is you legislatively use a bill to create a study committee that would take a look at that.
Okay.
And see, is it an economically viable crop for Arizona? The second thing, the problem is law enforcement has a problem, and it's related to marijuana, because they don't have a real good. What they tell you is that they don't have a real good field test to test the difference between hemp and marijuana. So if they run across them, they need to have the ability to tell the difference between the two.
Okay, I'm sure there is a way.
Because you don't want the hemp farmer the hemp farmer to go through grief, get drug into jail over something that is legal.
My only point, Ron Gould, in Canada, they are able to make it, and we import it. We import billions of dollars this hemp. And you know very well there must be a way, because we used to do it before, not that long ago in this country. And I would like to remind to the listeners, there are a lot of great things you can do with hemp. I mean, it's good for food, for proteins. They also build houses. I mean, you can use it for, of course, dressing, clothing. I mean, it's amazing how many industrial uses. And I find a little scary the fact that now the government, and it's not just the Arizona government, they need to find a justification.
Yeah, it's a federal issue. Also,
exactly. I mean, we try to do something extra. Probably, the federal regime would even let it fly, but at least it would be nice if the state would try to exercise our 10th Amendment. But my point, I find scary that now we need to find some sort of justification to grow a plant that we know anyway that has a lot of good applications, also for the economy would be great. But regardless, I think always the people the rights to risk and to fail if they have to, because when the freedom of us, should be that we can try to be in this business, also growing hemp, and if there is demand, we will see. If there's any demand, we will move on. But anyway, that was just an idea.
Yeah, you've got to sell it to the public.
Oh, I understand.
The idea, so to make it. To move in that direction, members of the legislature need to see some stats on paper.
I understand.
So that they're comfortable with doing it. If I had the magic wand to run the government of the nation, I would do things a little differently than I would do them in the legislature.
I understand. So
I got to play with the rules that came with the board game.
Of course. But just to sum it up, would you support at least a type of attempt to make legal in the state of Arizona the industrial hemp for industrial purposes?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with industrial hemp.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's very good. Now, let's go back to the role of government. And first of all, who owns our body? You think when you go to, we jump in the car, I always laugh and smile a little bit when I see these signs on the street, put your seatbelt. It's the law. Okay, I must tell you something. As much as I understand that the seatbelt can be an important tool to be, safe, but sometimes I don't want to put my seatbelt, because maybe I don't feel like it. And I tell you, I find very disturbing the fact, because especially we go back to the principles before. I have rights until I'm not dangerous to others. I don't infringe other people's rights. The idea that now government claims ownership over my body, and they can give me a fine, a punishment, just because I don't jump when they tell me to jump. What is your position on these seatbelts? I'm just curious.
It's interesting that you asked that. I was the former transportation chairman in the state senate for 2 years. Currently in Arizona, the seatbelt, I don't think you should have to wear your seatbelt if you don't want to.
Okay, good.
And I don't believe in mandatory seatbelt laws. The law currently in Arizona, seatbelts is called a secondary offense, which means that they cannot pull you over for not wearing a seatbelt.
Interesting.
And the reason that we've always opposed making it a primary offense is because police officers use things for what's called a probable cause stop. If an officer was just to pull you over for no reason to talk to you, because he's on a fishing expedition, that you may have committed a crime, that's a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. So people get pulled over for having a taillight out.
Yes.
Or a license plate out. So that the officer can come up and talk to you. And what he's doing, that's how they find most criminals anyway. Is the guy's got a taillight out or he gets pulled over for speeding.
Exactly.
But we didn't want to never wanted to create the situation where they could claim, I thought I saw the chrome buckle flashing up by your shoulder where the seatbelt wasn't on, and that's why we pulled you over.
Yeah, exactly. So that's good. I'm glad you brought it up.
That's why we never moved it. I always opposed moving it to a primary offense. Getting rid of it was a tough nut.
Yeah.
The tide of the legislature is not. The people in the legislature don't think like you and I.
Yeah, I understand. But this is important.
So it's not flowing that way to remove that law.
But at least you understand the concept. And this is for me very important because at the end of the day, seriously, guys, once they win that battle, the government has that type of ability to make you think that now they can force you to put a seatbelt. Next time, they can tell you how much salt you can eat, like in New York, they tried, or how much sodas, even if it's terrible for you, I don't care. It's still your right to drink it, or pretty much what type of food is good for you. And of course, they can force you to buy a product like Obamacare. That's why it's so important. We talk about
essentially what they did. The Supreme Court, Justice Roberts was the swing vote on that, and what they essentially said was that we can force you to buy a product from a third party.
Yep, I know that. By the way,
and when you think about the ramifications of that, it's mind-blowing.
That's fascism. That's fascism. It's the union between a government and a corporation. As Mussolini said, is corporatism. So that's where we are right now, in my opinion, according to facts.
Sure.
Now, question. I know that...
While we're on transportation, let me hit I've always opposed texting bans, which has been we managed to kill that several times in the state Senate. And the problem with that is it creates a huge Fourth Amendment risk also.
Yes.
You know, they said, well, I thought you were texting, so I pulled you over.
Yeah, I remember, by the way, that...
and if you're...
Please go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I remember that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so the officer pulls you over and claims that he thought he saw you texting. And it's really an unenforceable law anyway, because if you're smart, and the officer pulls you over and says, I pulled you over because you were texting on your phone. And you say, no, I wasn't. He says, let me see your phone. And then you say, let me see your warrant. And that's the end of the discussion, and you're on your merry way.
Yeah.
The court has ruled that a cell phone is your personal papers, and that they cannot look at your cell phone without a warrant.
Yeah, and by the way...
So it's really a texting ban is an unenforceable law.
Yeah.
They can pull you over. If you're driving recklessly, they can already pull you over and cite you with reckless driving. And I think texting and driving is reckless, but we don't need a specific law just for texting.
Yeah, that's very important you mentioned that, because this is connected also, in my opinion, with the seat belts. And it's connected since we live in the district of Mojave County. I'm here, LD5, and Kingman is part of, constituents. I think really sometimes you should have a conversation when you come back, if you can get back to be elected in the office, with the KPD, the Kingman Police Department. I'm sure they don't like you very much out there, at least according to what they type of activity that they do. Are you familiar with their click it or ticket? Local cops focus on seatbelt violations. I mean, they were pulling over people just for seatbelts. Why they don't read the state laws? I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, to me, that's another Fourth Amendment violation.
Yeah.
That you're going to pull me over and tell me to wear my seatbelt.
Yeah. I mean, this is serious. I mean, what you told me, that we have a state law that says that they cannot pull you over just because that's the first infraction. I mean, the seatbelt is not the main reason. But here they have, Kingman Police Captain Rusty Cooper said that the enforcement campaign is based on high visibility traffic enforcement with a zero tolerance, I hate that word, approach towards seatbelt and child safety seat. I mean, child safety, I understand, the child is a minor, but we're talking about people over 18. They can pull you over just to make a point out of that. What do you think?
I don't think they can cite you under that. I think you could challenge that, to tell you the truth.
Wow, interesting.
Because if it's a secondary offense, they can't pull you over for it.
Yeah, but not as the first. Yeah, they seem like, according to this Kingman Daily Miner article of May 21st, 2012, I mean, this seems like it was at zero tolerance, and it was all about click it or ticket. This sort of
Yeah, I wonder if they actually write you a citation, or did they just give you a warning?
Interesting.
And try to scare you into submission.
Well, I'm going to try to have Captain Cooper here on the show if he ever will come. I doubt it, but I will try it. Good question. Now, let's move to another topic, because I really like this conversation with you. Hopefully, we can give to the constituents a lot of information about who you are and your principles, okay? That's the bottom line. This is, for me, the only goal of this interview. I'm not endorsing anybody. I'm not putting anybody down. I like just to give you the must, according to my principles, of course. I'm talking about things that are concerned to the topics of this show, okay? Now, we talk about who owns our body. Great. Now, who owns our money? After, we pay the taxes, are these really our money? What do you think? Or the government maybe still have something to say about how we spend our money?
Oh no, the government should have no say in how you spend your money.
Perfect. I agree with you.
The problem is the government thinks it's their money.
Of course. Always.
They take the attitude that it's their money and they're letting you keep some of it, rather than it's my money and I have, I pay some taxes that are for the common benefit of all.
Yeah, but after you pay,
a lot of times the common benefit of all is not wealth redistribution. The common benefit of all means that it's we should all pay to run the courts and for law enforcement.
Well, I agree with that.
It's not wealth redistribution.
I even didn't get there yet. I mean, that's another point. That's something I would like to talk about. Probably we already know the way you stand on this one. This is my point I was trying to make is this, after I pay taxes, okay, and I got already robbed a part of my money by the government to redistribute to somebody else for other purposes that I don't think they are constitutional. My point is I still have a limitation, at least in the state of Arizona, how I can spend my money freely. For example, if I want to gamble my money, I can't. I need to cross the river and go to Laughlin and drop my money at the casino. Or I need to go to some Indian reservation, and there I'm allowed to do it. Why in the state of Arizona we cannot make legalization of gambling, like, for example, in Nevada? By the way, you're talking to somebody that I hate gambling. I don't even gamble at anything. But, once in a while I like to drop $10 maybe on the slot machine, but that's another story. Why can we do that? And do you support the legalization of gambling eventually?
Well, you actually can have a poker game amongst people and gamble for money in Arizona.
Okay.
But you can't go to a business that does that.
But why can't we do a business like Nevada? Also, we can have, probably have extra income from that business, so we can maybe remove our personal income tax. I mean, after all, it's legal.
Yeah, but if you look at say an Indian casino,
mm-hmm.
it actually just sucks money out of the local community.
Why?
So if you were to legalize gambling in Arizona,
mm-hmm.
I don't know that it would be an economic stimulus because people are already set up to travel to Las Vegas to gamble from around the world.
Yeah, but you know what?
So I don't know. I don't really care if you want to have a card game. I was raised as a Baptist.
Yeah.
And gambling is considered sin to a fundamentalist Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really care what you do.
Of
because
course.
that's what you want to do, and it's your money.
Exactly.
The problem really rolls back down once again, just like the drug issue,
mm-hmm.
is are we going to people that go and gamble the milk money and then come to the government with their which is the people's tax dollars, with their handout.
My point is,
so it's really more of an economic issue. If we go to a laissez-faire society where I'm not taxed to pay for the lifestyles of other people,
at least
then I'm not going to have a problem with that. So if we can move in that direction, then we can lift the ban on organized gambling.
Listen, if we believe that in free market, at that point, if the business want to start the enterprise in the gambling, they will see if there is the demand, if there is an offer. I mean, the point is, I think government shouldn't be here deciding what business should be okay, what business should be okay, but the consumers should decide and vote with their dollars. And if somebody is crazy or is irresponsible and wants to blast all their family's saving into the gambling, first of all, they can do it already anyway. All they have to do, they cross the river and go to Nevada. So I don't see the difference.
Sure.
But at that point, is with freedom.
Or if you listen to the presidential debate, they're worried about fantasy football also. But
yeah. But my point is this: I don't think government.
I agree with you fundamentally, but I think even if we can move away from a welfare state, then you can do things like that.
Yeah, I would say somebody's on welfare. I don't think should spend the welfare money at the casino. That's a fact, because after all, that's public money.
Right, which is what you've seen with EBT cards. We've seen people that are gambling with those cards, and purchases are made in casinos with those cards. On their what's called TANF, cash assistance money.
Okay, but my only point, I'm sure we could find a way to limit that. At the point, the rest of us shouldn't be punished because somebody is misusing public money. That's the bottom line. But anyway, I understand your position. I'd like to move forward. We have so much to cover. We're almost at the end. Now, talking briefly about that, you say that, like I do, we believe in the same principles. We own our body, but not the government. And of course, maybe we have a little bit of still differences about the legalization of marijuana. But what do you think about the fact that, if I really own my body and I'm not forcing anybody, I'm not using coercion, and there is a consent between two or more adult parties, why prostitution is illegal right now, and why can we make it legal?
I haven't been asked that one in a long time.
Okay, I'm glad I did.
Prostitution, it never happens the way that you laid it out. It's generally
how do you know that?
Coerced into prostitution is the thing.
How do you know that?
The straw man argument doesn't really work.
I don't see about
generally women become prostitutes because they're either being forced to be a prostitute, or their drug addiction forces them to be a prostitute to get their drug money.
Let me stop 1 second. That's in the underworld. Probably you're right. But I have here, for example, I had here on the show the most famous legal prostitute in the world, Air Force Sammy, okay? That don't say that that's my role model, and if I had a daughter, I wouldn't suggest you to do that. But according to what they can do now is a legalization of prostitution, many of them, they do it as a personal and private choice of business. And I think for sure, keeping this in the underworld and illegal, yes, we're going to implement more opportunities for the drug dealers of the mafia or criminals to pimp and to, take advantage of these women, or men, of course, not just women. That's the bottom line. But I believe that the government should have no business, in my opinion, to tell me if I want to sell the labor of my arms, in this case, let's say I'm a farmer, or if I want to maybe sell another part of my body, especially when, I do not infringe on other people's rights. There is consent. Why can't we do that? Like in Nevada.
Yeah, I'm just not for legalized prostitution.
Okay.
I think in I guess it wouldn't, in a perfect world it wouldn't exist anyway, but it's just it never lays out. It's never just willing buyer, willing seller.
All right, that's your personal thing.
There's a ton of outside forces that.
But you know what? No matter what, prostitution is out there. You know what, Ron? And no matter what.
Oh yeah, I realize that.
Yeah, and
but sometimes you don't need to put the government seal of approval on things.
Exactly, and unfortunately now
that's really what you do.
And now it's illegal.
And what is kind of interesting though is that's not a federal law. That's a state law.
Yes, exactly. It's a state law, and in Nevada it's going okay in some counties.
It's county by county in Nevada.
Yeah, and by the way, one thing,
some of the other states actually have. Wyoming might have legalized prostitution also.
I guess so. But the good thing about at least you give it the opportunity to have some sort of control system that diseases they are not anymore. I mean, you can get more diseases tonight if you go to a bar and you go with a woman that you don't know and just should give it away for free. After all, give it away for free. It's legal, but if somebody is going to ask you for compensation, become a criminal offense. That's for me the disturbing thing. After all, now it seems like that the government is legislating on morality. That's what really scares me a little bit.
You just put a chink in your libertarian armor by saying that the government would then regulate it.
You know what? There is a point. At that point, no, I understand. Let me tell you, I'm not even libertarian. Ron, I'm independent. That's why libertarian. I wouldn't fly because I don't go for the open borders. Okay.
I'll restate it as this libertarian idea.
The idea, of course, we still have businesses. We have to realize that we have licenses, no matter what. I wish we didn't have a license for business. After all, the government.
The reason that they give you a license is so they can take your license away.
Exactly, that's the scary thing.
How many people don't realize that?
Yeah, that's the scary. The government now can give me the opportunity to the privilege to make a living, but if they change their mind, I'm gonna starve. That's scary. But now I'm just talking about with the condition that we have. All business must have a license. At least if prostitution is a reality, we know that. I think they should have a license too. Now it's almost over. I want to give us your website before we go to the point. People, how can reach you out?
It's rongould.com.
rongould.com. Very good. Now, last question, and then, of course, time is over. Weather modification. I know you were very aware about it. We gave you information. You were concerned. I know that you took the time to look at the information about weather modification, and I will then remind you that it's reality. But what do you think? You think weather modification is real or not, first of all?
Oh, I believe that they are doing weather modification. You know, you provided me. I think it was after I was no longer a senator. The request for proposal from the Bureau of Reclamation for weather modification through cloud, and it wasn't even limited to cloud seeding.
Yeah, and also the state of Arizona website, you know, there is a permit. You can apply directly from the website of the state. For $100, you can apply for a permit for weather modification. So that's another fact, just a local level. What do you think? I mean, this is something that's happening for many years, but lately it's been incrementally going deeper and deeper. Can you see the planes on the sky that make no sense to you when you live in Havasu and you can look at the sky these days completely going crazy? Are you aware of those? I mean, did you see them with your own eyes that something is not normal?
I've seen the you know, what people call chemtrails. I don't know what they are, but it does seem like there's quite a few more than there was in the past.
Yeah,
and just from a seat of the pants.
I mean, the point is, you know, we have here, regardless now that what we can prove, but we know that whatever they spray, it's chemical, and we know that it's coming down to us. That's a fact. And now I think it should be our concern to at least do an investigation. Are you committed to do something if you get reelected to at least start to officially speak? I mean, are we asking to have a conversation on the floor of the Senate? We're not talking that we're going to find the results immediately, but we need to start to have an open conversation about weather modification and its potential danger. Are you committed to do something like that?
Yeah, I don't have a problem having a conversation on that, to tell you the truth. I know the issue was barium, I think, when you and I were talking about it a few years back.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get the Department of ADQ, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, claimed that they don't even test for barium.
That's another problem.
Which was the problem, so they had no baseline. But it makes it tough to figure out, but I don't have a problem getting them to take a look at it. You know?
I think, you know,
if it's harming if my folks are concerned with it in my district, then it needs to be important to me.
Listen, the point is, this is a fact. Whatever they're spraying, and we know for sure that salt of barium is one of the elements, is coming down to us. And it's already been proven, at least, that regardless, we don't have the connection, but we know that 85% of the test sample that we have in Mojave County came back with an extremely high level of blood test with barium inside. So all I hope, if you make it back to Phoenix, you start to bring this officially on the Senate floor, because at this point, this is the only way we're going to start to have a real debate about our health, our environment, and also our economy. Because I tell you, salt of barium and aluminum coming down in our crops is not going to make it better. Listen, Senator Gould, former Senator Gould, I wish you the best, and I give you 30 seconds, whatever you want to say. Go ahead.
I just hope that the listeners will take the time to take a look at my voting record and look at the voting record of my opponent and choose who do they think shares their values. And who actually will do the things that they say. Because if I tell you that I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. You know, it's not just lip service. I was the number one conservative in the state legislature during the time that I was there. That didn't make my Republican leadership very happy, the positions that I took. But I took them because they were heartfelt positions. If we continue to elect get along, go along, guys, we are never going to push back this envelope of socialism that's enveloping us. If we continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity.
Perfect. Guys, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna. Don't go away. And next hour is going to be all about guns.